Hey there everyone. So this time around I'll be reviewing three very different books, different from each other. So first is the William Shakespeare's Star Wars by Ian Dosher. So this is a parody of the Star Wars but written in William Shakespearean verses. Second is The Rabbit and the Squirrel by Siddharth Dhanwan Sangvi and illustrated by Stina Weirson. And the third is Devdutt Patnaik's Jaya. It's an illustrated retelling of Mahabharata. So someone requested for this book, and hopefully that person will like this review. So yeah, let's start with William Shakespeare's Star Wars. Verily a New Hope. So as you can understand, this is a full parody. I'll cover the blurb here so that you can pause it and read it if you want. Hopefully the focusing works. Yeah. And this is the book without the dust jacket. As you can see, it's basically cardboard. You can see the shine of here, but it's made to look like a very old book. There's a spine. The interesting part of this book is inside it, rather than most other books. It's on the cover, dust jacket, and everything else. So it's a very interesting kind of artwork here. You can see the Vader. So here's one page. You can pause it and read here. So I'm not a very big fan of Shakespeare, but I got this book just for the fun of it. Heck, I mean, I don't think there are many books like this in the world. And the artwork is very nice. It's a very... I just saw one, I think. Yeah. So that's it. 4. It's also in acts, yeah. So there you can see Chewbacca and R2D2. No one else. So yeah. So there are parts where in chorus, there is chorus, you can see here. So it stays true to the Shakespeare spirit, and I know there are a lot of people who love this book, but personally I didn't get past very like page 20 or so. I did start reading it, but then I'm not a very big Shakespeare fan. Hate me if you want. So yeah, Obi-Wan, Han, everything is in the form of Shakespearean verses. Not exactly prose, but not exactly Shakespeare either. Something in between. And there are friends of mine who have gone gaga over this. Yeah, well. So yeah, nice artwork. Ends as a play, so you can see here it looks like a stage, and that's the end. See if I can focus that better. Hopefully you could read that. And then there's a author biography. It starts with William Shakespeare, then George Lucas, then Ian Dosher. So yeah, that's William Shakespeare's Star Wars. Very different kind of book. Next we have Siddharth Dhanwan Sangvi's The Rabbit and the Squirrel, and this one is illustrated by Stina Weirson. I love this book. I've read this one. I love the artwork. I love the story. The story is very well. It's more of a modern story, but cast in fairy tale loveliness. So that's the book without the dust jacket. There's a spine. I'll give you the blurb. So you can pause that there and read it if you want. Going on to the book itself, starts off pink. It's beautiful artwork. It's watercolor through and through. Lovely artwork. So I'll not give away the story. The story is short, but it takes a lot of time to digest because, frankly, uh, Sangvi wrote it with modern audience in mind. So although it seems like a children's story, it is not. It's definitely not a children's story, and I certainly do not recommend you to give it to a child to read, because most children will not be able to make sense of it. You only make sense of it after you have gone through life tribulations, but then that might be just my perception of it. The artwork is fabulous. I'll not give away all the artwork either, so that you have something when you actually get the book to read. It's hardly very thick. It's like what, 66 pages, and it's a very, very nice book in my opinion. I got it from a second-hand store in Delhi, and I think the price I paid for it, I think I paid around 120 bucks for it, rupees that is. And I think this is totally worth it. So there you have a author biography of Siddhant Dhanvant Sangvi, and there's Tina Wiertson. So that's about the rabbit and the squirrel. And coming to Jaya by Devdutt Patnaik. So this is a very famous book. This is the book with which Devdutt Patnaik got famous. This is a retelling of Mahabharata. I'll give you the blurb here as well. So there is a lot of research that has gone into this book. So you can see my copy has yellow spots in it. It's a fairly old copy, mine, Jaya. This is the problem with a few of my books. Few of my books have been developing this, but cannot find any counter for it. If anyone has any counter, please definitely do comment below. I'd love to have some solutions onto how this might be avoided or reversed if possible. So this is full of illustrations. I've read about halfway through this book. I've not yet finished it, and I love this book. It's a retelling, as you can understand, but there's a lot of stuff that is inside the book, and there's a lot of different kind of illustrations in it as well, which go very well with this book and the general overall context and subject of this book. So you can see, and then there's a lot of actual historical emphasis on it. So even though it's mythology, there's a lot of context that has been brought into it. Patnaik has tried to connect everything together historically through actual emphasis on research. So there are historical undertones throughout the whole book, with the subject matter enshrined in mythology, of course. And then there are specific parts of the book with deal with specific people, and then let's see. And then there's parts which try to interpret the Mahabharata for people who have never actually read this book. So it's a very in-depth analysis of the book itself. So there are specific parts which deal with specific events and specific perspectives. So there is a chapter called Perspectives. And then, so there is an insignia and warrior as well here. So it's a very, very varied kind of book with a lot of emphasis on research tied with mythology. And frankly, I love this book. Anyone who has an interest in Mahabharata should be reading this book, in my opinion. So yeah, finishing it up. So there's a bibliography at the end as well. And there you go. So that's Patnaik, and there's an author biography here. And that's the blurb at the end. And that's it about Jaya. 3 books. As always, if you have any comments, any suggestions, anything to say, or any way to prevent that yellowing of books, I'd love to hear about it. Foxing. And that's about it. Thank you for the time. Happy reading.